It's been 6 months since the first stay-at-home orders were issued in Los Angeles County. Many of us forget what friends and family members look like without Zoom boxes around our heads or face masks covering our noses and our mouths. We work on Zoom. We learn on Zoom. We pray on Zoom. We gather socially on Zoom. We celebrate birthdays and anniversaries with car parades and video montages. Social in-person gatherings are few and far between, if they exist at all. Some of us are lucky enough to live close to the people we love, and even in these circumstances, COVID-19 distances us in ways we have never before experienced. All in-person gatherings, from our doctor's appointments to the work we conduct to the visits that we have with our dear friends, are limited by our desire to stay healthy and to ensure that those around us stay safe as well. These restrictions can make us feel lonely. On Rosh Hashanah, it is traditional to read the story of creation. God said, "Let there be light," and the light that formed was good. God produced water and sky, and that too was good. After each creation, from the plants and trees to the animals of the land, sea and sky, God says that they were good. God calls the creation of human beings very good. But after God's handiwork was complete, God remarks that there is one thing that is not good at all. It is not good for human beings to be alone. One rabbinic tale teaches that when God created the world, God paraded every pair of animals in front of Adam for him to name. 2 long-necked animals walked in front of Adam, and he called them giraffes. When 2 black and white striped animals walked before Adam, he called them zebras. After Adam named all of the species, he asked God, "What about me? Everyone has a partner, but I do not." Adam's question expressed a feeling of loneliness that many of us know all too well. So did our ancestors. Abraham, Sarah, Hagar, Isaac, Jacob, Leah, Joseph, and Moses all express a deep existential loneliness at one point in their lives. And most of them didn't live through a pandemic. As it turns out, loneliness was an epidemic well before the coronavirus. According to a study through Cigna, nearly 2/3 of Americans struggled with loneliness in 2019, 13% more than in 2018. Political scientist Robert Putnam explains that loneliness has increased for a reason. Since the 1960s, we have moved from the we society of we're all in this together to the I society of I'm free to be myself. This is reflected in the lyrics of the music that we hear and the words of the books that we read. We have become a society focused more on the individual than the communal, and one of the losses of communal attachment is that of social isolation. There is a story about a man who wrote to the Rabbi from a place of pain and hardship. He said, "I am depressed. I am lonely. I feel that life is meaningless. I try to pray, but the words do not come. I keep mitzvot, but I find no peace of mind. I need the Rebbe's help." He, like Adam, expressed a profound loneliness and a longing for deeper connection. That is, after all, what loneliness is, an expression of spiritual and emotional isolation, a yearning to be seen, heard, and embraced, and a longing to feel the deepness of sacred relationship. The Rebbe sent a brilliant reply without using a single word. He simply circled the first word of every sentence and sent it back. The word in each case was I. There is a reason that God said it is not good for people to be alone. God knew that human beings are innately social. Although it is healthy and natural to spend some time alone, we also need opportunities for sacred connection. We are happiest, healthiest, and most fulfilled when we turn our eyes into we's. When our temple building temporarily closed, we recognized how isolating the pandemic could be. On the phone, many of you opened up about how terrifying it was to live alone in midst of pandemic, how surreal it was to conduct business, social gatherings, and interactions through technology alone. American society might be focused on the individual, but Judaism has always centered around the communal. We study together, we pray together, we come together at times of joy and times of sorrow, for holidays and sacred occasions just like this one. So when the pandemic hit, it was not surprising that our community came together. In a matter of days, we transformed our Torah school into a virtual school. We struggled with technology so that we could worship and learn together. We created Zoomathons, scavenger hunts, game nights, coffee talks, meditations. And we showed up in huge numbers because we needed each other more than ever. The temple created phone chains and connected people who needed help with those who were in a position to offer it. Your response was inspiring. Everyone wanted to help. Loneliness is not new, but because of the pandemic, we devoted more time than ever to addressing it. This has been our key to survival for millennia. Every year, we recall the story of Egyptian bondage and the exodus that followed. We are taught that slavery was painfully lonely on both an individual and a communal level. Pharaoh made a concerted effort to separate spouses from one another. Even if they had the desire to connect, Pharaoh worked them so hard that they wouldn't have the energy to do so. Pharaoh hoped that this separation would prevent a new generation from being born. But the Israelites did not allow Pharaoh to succeed. A midrash teaches that women risked everything to be with their spouses. They brought mirrors to them to show them how handsome they were and to arouse them to be intimate. As Rabbi Michael Latz teaches, from that intimacy was born the next generation of Israelites. Our people survived. Humans are social creatures. People need community, a tribe, like a bee needs a hive. Community, relationships, intimacy were the ultimate resistance to Pharaoh's tyranny. When we are faced with trials and difficulties, our sacred connections are our vaccine. A deep moment of connection can lift us, drive us, inspire us. They are, as Rabbi Latz explains, a balm against loneliness. Judaism is the counter-narrative to the myths that perpetuate loneliness through consumerism and individualism. How so? Because we are part of a story of meaning that is bigger than ourselves. A few weeks ago, I received a call from a member of our community. She said, there is a man who lives on my block. I've said hi in the past. I've looked out for him from time to time. But because I volunteered to help out at the temple, I came to learn that he's a member of the temple. Now that I know I'm having deeper conversations with him, I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Our temple programs in the past 6 months have brought people together. Our phone trees have sparked new friendships. Random breakout rooms after services fostered new connections. Programs such as Elul Reflections have enabled congregants to share their stories and to get to know people they had never before had a chance to meet. For the first time, congregants who live far away or who are unable to get to the temple because of their schedule, health, mobility, or any other reason can still fully participate in the temple. Several people have expressed that they feel closer to the temple community than they ever have before. The temple is in my home every day, one said. I've never celebrated Havdalah every week, said another. Now I can't imagine missing it. The irony of the pandemic that pulled us apart is that, like the Israelites in Egypt, we have responded by coming closer together. Loneliness has been an epidemic for decades, and yet it took a pandemic for us to take it seriously. In March, the House of Representatives passed the Supporting Older Americans Act of 2020, which included provisions to address social isolation. Nonprofits of all kinds have begun providing remote resources. We are talking about our loneliness and isolation in ways we have not always felt comfortable doing, and it is making a difference. American psychologists conducted a loneliness study on adults ages 18 to 98. It began back in January before we felt the true effects of the pandemic, and it continued for several months. The study showed that respondents felt more social and emotional support in April and May than they did back in January. A similar study came to the exact same conclusion. Loneliness remains an epidemic, but there is promise. As reporter Cassi explains, if these trends continue, the social recession we feared could turn out to be a social revolution. Ironically, the pandemic may catalyze a cultural shift in which neighborhoods and communities band together to enhance our social well-being. In short, it is possible that a symptom of the coronavirus pandemic could be a cure for the loneliness epidemic. For all of its death and destruction, this moment of time has gifted us with an incredible opportunity to focus on that which is most important to our lives, the relationships that we build. Now is the time that we affirm your presence matters. It makes a difference that you overcome the challenges of technology to be here today. It makes a difference when you volunteer or when you ask for help. It makes a difference that you join Torah School or Cantor's Corner, Torah Study or Social Hour. At this strange moment in Jewish history, I invite you to follow in the footsteps of our Israelite ancestors and to strive to forge new connections. They are the life force of our people. They are what has sustained us all of these years. Today is a day to connect to community, to commit to connecting to community. Not a member? We'd love to have you. Need help with groceries? Let us help you, as you have helped so many people before. Willing to help? Let us know, and we can connect you to a new friend. On our website, you'll find a list and a description of all of our temple groups and committees. We'd love to have you join one. There are phenomenal sisterhood and men's club events, starting with a social virtual sukkah nights that are happening in early October, where you can see old friends and you can make new ones. We recently started a new initiative called Community Connections. Thanks to the work of the Open Tent Project, we figured out which neighborhood congregants live in and created small pods for neighbors to get to know one another. Throughout the year, there will be opportunities to come together with people in your pod. I hope you will join in. Let us all turn our eyes into we's. God was right. It is not good for man to be alone. Fortunately, we're not alone. We have one another.